I want to turn topics now. The videotape of this horrendous bus attack in Charlotte, North Carolina. It happened back on August 22nd, but the tape itself is getting a lot of attention. The footage is just shocking. This assailant has been arrested 14 times. Reportedly, was out on cashless bail. FBI Director Kash Patel and the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy are both investigating. So, Tom, when you look at this, is this the kind of crime you think that justifies federal intervention? Let's start there.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, part of the problem with this story is that, as you mentioned, this is an individual who, and clearly you can even see it on the tape. He's mentally, unwell, and but more than that, he's violent and had been repeatedly arrested and released back into the community, and that is where I think, when you look at local law enforcement, and we have the same stories. And I was just reading, there's a story, exact same story that happened in Chicago. It didn't end in death. It ended in a middle-aged woman getting punched in the face and fractured. And this was another individual that was out, 12, 13 times. I mean, so in that sense, yeah, I think it does require perhaps some federal intervention. Look, and the media refused to cover this story. And this is the kind of story that I think really, really outrages people. I mean, this is obviously a beautiful young woman. She was fleeing the war in Ukraine, comes to, a city in America and ends up dying here, sort of a senseless, tragic death. And so in that sense, it shocks the conscience, and to see it on video makes it all that much more shocking.
Yeah. So, Carl, her name was Iryna Zarutska. I think I've got that right. She's 23 or was 23 years old, a Ukrainian refugee. Killer can be heard on the tape, if you listen carefully, saying, "I got that white girl." So there's a racial component to this, as well as the idea of cashless bail, and it's just a tragedy all the way around. But it's also a political story, isn't it?
Well, listen, in the old local news adage, if it bleeds, it leads. That was in another era, Andy, and you had film footage and you'd use it. That's still present. There'll be stories on cable news sometimes, even national network news. This looks like a local crime, and you think, why is that? And well, because they have compelling video of it. But this is not just a local crime. This is, for all the reasons you and Tom point out, it meets every element of a national public policy story. This so-called bail reform, where you're taking violent people, the police are arresting them, the police are frustrated in city after city, state after state, and they go before some magistrate, and the judge just, yeah, come back on August 33rd, we'll try you. A person like this, it also has the added thing of she's the human interest story. She's from Ukraine. She came here to be safe, and she can't be safe in American cities because our cities aren't safe, and we won't do anything about it. And if you try to do something about it, like President Trump's doing, you get excoriated, and attacked and criticized and called names. And then there's the dimension. It appears to be a hate crime. A person who kills strangers is almost by definition mentally compromised. But that doesn't, if this was reversed and a white, wild-eyed white guy stabbed a African American young woman, said, "I got that black girl," this would be.
It would not be a local story.
No, and there would be demonstrations. It would be talked about in Congress. The president would be asked about it. The Democrats would all be talking about it. The New York Times would run story after story after story, and so would every major. And they've ignored this story. And the only time they started writing about it, Axios was sort of a Republicans' pounce angle. They started writing like, yeah, they're playing the race card, and this is a national news story by any standard that's ever existed in national news. And the people the authorities in Charlotte the mayor expressed more solicitude for the killer than the victim. And I think that itself is a news story. And that shows you what the problem is and why we have been unable to stop these crimes, and why the cities are getting more and more dangerous, especially for defenseless people, women, elderly people. There's a case like this right now around here in Northern Virginia, a retired college professor walking her dog, slashed, killed by somebody she doesn't even know. And there's a racial element there too. We need to start talking about this honestly and frankly, and policymakers should be held to account.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can I just go on a mini media rant because Carl mentioned
I thought I did that,
but well, in a calm voice. I didn't get my say. I need to vent about this. Okay. No, it's Carl's right. I mean, again, if the roles were reversed, it'd be a national outrage. The people would be marching in the streets. Al Sharpton would be out there on MSNBC, and all these folks just basically ginning up sort of the racial element. And the excuse that it's a local story and not a national story is obviously, that puts the lie to that idea. But the other thing, Carl mentioned this Republicans pounce idea. And we saw this with the Sydney Sweeney story that there was these left-wing folks who were, oh my God, this is eugenics. And then Republicans or right media sort of, said, oh, of course, no, it's not. And it became a story. And then the media covered it as if, and we saw a couple of these analyses that, this was all a right-wing invention. There were only just a couple of little, mentions of it on social media, and the right wing actually took this and blew it up into a story. Same thing with Cracker Barrel. I mean, this is sort of the way the media operates now. It's like, oh, it's mentioned. This is all sort of a fiction that's created by the right wing or right wing media or the MAGA influencers or all this stuff, and it's the media, I think, sort of abdicating their duty and responsibility of informing the public about what's going on. And
well, Tom, think about this. If Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter, would we even know about this crime? Nobody was covering it.
I just saw, on X earlier, there apparently something like this happened in August. Very similar situation that I'd never even heard of before. And so, no, probably not. I mean, I think the answer might be no. In the story in Chicago, this happened a couple of weeks ago. My wife ended up telling me about it. I didn't see it on the news, on our local news. So it was one of those things like, unless you're sort of looking for it or you stumble across it, you would not know that there are probably many more stories like this that are out there around the country that people are just completely unaware of.